Hi, it's Dorothy with Stage and Sell. Glad to be here with you again today to talk about another very important room in our houses, especially in today's world. You know, a lot of us work at home or from home for varying degrees of time, whether it be all day long as a full-time job or whether it's part-time as we try to conduct our business, whether it be personal or outside. So I want to talk to you today about our home offices. Most of the houses today, particularly the larger homes, the newer homes, have got all these extra rooms, and sometimes you have to figure out, what do I do with it? Well, when you're staging your house to sell, a home office is always a draw if you have at least 3 other bedrooms. If you don't have at least 4 bedrooms total, you don't want to make one of them an office because they have more value to your potential buyer as a bedroom. So let's talk a little bit about what should be or what should not be in a home office. Again, and I want you to just get used to doing this, I want you to stand in the doorway first and take a look at that room. What does it look like? What's in there? Most of us, if we're talking about our home office, are going to go, oh no. Because let's face it, we work and we leave things lying around. I have to admit I'm the world's worst about keeping up with my filing, and so home office is going to be something that's really important. But again, like I said, it's really going to be a value to your home when a buyer comes in and looks and sees that they can use this as their home office. So again, we want to remember, we want things to be clean, we want things to be as decluttered as possible and as depersonalized as possible. I'll never forget the time I walked into a house to do a preliminary consultation, and I was going through and I walked into their home office, and they had one whole wall that was full of shelves of trophies and ribbons that they had won. Well, it was impressive, but that comes under the heading of those collections that we talked about when we talked about living rooms. That's one of those things you need to pack up and put up. You don't want your buyers to stand there and try to read your medals or to try to read your cups that you won for whatever and try to figure out what your hobbies are or any of that kind of thing, because it's detracting them from looking at the house. We got to keep them focused because buyers only know what they see. They cannot envision what it can be. Now, one thing that most of us have in an office is a filing cabinet of some sort. Some of us have a 4-drawer, some of us have a 2-drawer, some of us have more than one of all of those. So it is important, if you possibly can, to try to eliminate all of those filing cabinets, but perhaps one if you really need to leave that in there. And I realize that you may need to continue to conduct business, or you may need to continue to use that room as an office when it's on the market. But again, you don't want it to look like someplace that people would walk in and expect to be doing business immediately. You want it to look clean and uncluttered. Now, the office is a little bit different in that really the only focal point you're generally going to see in an office is your desk. And there's a lot of configurations that we have our desks in these days. Some are against a wall, some are an L shape, some are half circles. It's just so many different kinds. But the best way that you can do it is to have your desk against the wall, or if it's an L shape, part of it against the wall, part of it protruding from the wall. You want to do this because people, again, need to see the space, and that's what they are going to be looking at your desk, is how much space it takes up. So if perhaps you have a huge desk that maybe has an L shape to it, and the bottom part of that L is detachable, you might even want to consider, if it's taking up too much room in that office space, to detach it and store that. Because again, you want people to be able to walk around through the room to enter and exit without having to bump into things. So take a look at that. Another thing that you want to look at too is the top of your desk. Let's face it, we all leave paper scattered. Again, I'm guilty as charged, but when you're showing your house, you want things to be neat. So if you have one of those file organizers where you can lay your materials in there, get one of those. They're very inexpensive. You can even pick them up at the dollar store. And put your file folders or whatever that are not in the desk on top in something, not just strewn all over the desk. You don't want a huge array of books out where you've got 45 books on whatever you do out there, because again, it detracts and it really looks cluttered. So if you have to leave 1 or 2 out, that's fine. Use bookends to do that with, but you want to make sure that you don't have anything on that desk that you can get off of it. If it's bare, that's great. You want to make sure you leave your computer or your laptop off when the house is being shown. Obviously, part of it might be security reasons, but also it just is detracting. People come in and go, oh, what is he looking at? What is she doing over there? It doesn't matter. They need to be paying attention to the space, not what's going on your machines. So make sure those are off, your laptop case is closed, whatever. To, again, make it look as much as clean and uncluttered as possible. If you happen to have like pencil holders, paper clip holders, those kinds of things, go ahead and put those in the drawer for right now. Again, about what we'd really like to see on top of a desk is if you have to have a file organizer on there, okay, but you also might want to put a little green plant on there, again, to add a little color, a little life from outside, maybe a small vase with some sticks coming out, something like that. But you don't want to have just stuff everywhere. So take care of that desk. And obviously you want to make sure that the drawers stay closed and they don't have stuff creeping out the front, because I've seen that too, where somebody has something that came out of the drawer at night when nobody was looking and it just stayed there. So you want to make sure that's not happening. Another thing too with your desk, and you may not have ever thought of this, if you have one of those plastic pieces on the floor to put your chair on so that your chair rolls around easily on your carpet, make sure it's clean. I can't tell you how many houses I've gone into and looked at it, and it's so yellow. It just detracts horribly. That's all you see is this dirty looking yellow piece of plastic on the floor. Again, take it out for right now. Either buy a new one or just retire that one until after the house is sold. Make sure your chair stays pushed up to the desk while the house is being shown. You don't want to, I know sometimes we get up in a hurry and we leave and the chair stays a foot and a half away from the desk because we just left it there. But when the house is being shown, make sure that the chair is pushed up. You also don't want to have your wastebasket out in plain sight. And this is true of wastebaskets in all rooms. They all need to be out of the line of sight. So if you need to leave the wastebasket in there where you can use it, push it under the desk back as far as possible. That's also a good way, by the way, to help hide all of those cords that you may have coming off of your computer, your lamps, whatever. Sometimes when we walk into a room and we've decluttered everything else, we don't stop to think about it. But when you look under the desk, there's this huge mass of cords hanging down. Well, if you don't have one of the cord wrap things that you can use, at least sit the wastebasket up against them as much as possible, because that's a lot less detracting than all the cords hanging off. The other thing that you may have, a lot of us have, is a paper shredder. So again, make sure that's as much out of the line of sight as possible. If you have enough space under the well of your desk, put it over to one side, inside, rather than out on the outsides. Another thing a lot of people have in offices are bookcases. Now, I have seen bookcases that are full to overflowing. Again, we all kind of tend to pull something out, look at it, and maybe stick it halfway back in. But again, you want to edit that bookcase, just like we did in our living room. We want to go through and only put a few books per shelf, either standing or lying, and then you can put some kind of a little vase or whatever on that too, if you want to. So, but edit, and make sure that you don't have the bookcases filled to overflowing. Again, you got to pack them anyway. Go ahead and do it and get rid of them. Again, let's take a look at your walls. What have you got on there in the way of wall art? Now, we've gotten rid of your certificates, we've gotten rid of your collections, we've gotten rid of your personal photos, so you may not have much of anything left on your wall. It's nice to have something on the wall. I've seen some very nice, inexpensive framed art of maybe a pair of maps or a globe. There's lots of things like that that you can use to show off the wall a little bit. And I would like to put one of those above the desk, because it looks nice and it draws people's eyes toward the desk and that focus. So make sure, again, when you're hanging your pictures or your wall art, it's at eye level. And if you're 4'10", then make sure you bump that up a little bit. But if you're 6'6", you want to bring it down a little bit. About average 5'7", 5'8" person, make sure it's at their eye level. When you're hanging the center of your wall art or your picture should be at what their eye level would be. That way, it's going to look a whole lot more attractive. It's also going to make your ceilings look taller and more spacious. So you want to make sure that you think of all of these little things when you're doing this. Now, I've seen other pieces of furniture in offices. Goodness, they range from little round tables with just something sitting on them to ideas that I couldn't imagine what they're even needed to be in there for. But about the only other thing you really want to have in an office might be a visitor's chair. If you have a visitor's chair in your office and it looks nice, it's in good condition, that's fine to let it sit next to the office. It does give a certain nice look to it. Again, an office is a great place to put a floor vase with some sticks or some greenery in it. This really adds some color to your wall office, because let's face it, most of our desks are brown or black. Most of the other furniture that we use in an office is not a bright color, so you still want something that kind of pops in that office. So use your accessories, use as your color, and to bring that into the room along with your wall art. Again, don't forget to look at your windows. Now, your windows can be a help in the office too if you have one. A lot of offices don't have them, but if they do, again, lose the drapes, lose the valances if you possibly can, and make sure that those blinds are drawn up to the top when that house is being shown on a clean window. Because whether it looks out over the front porch or whether it looks out over part of your yard, it's going to help give that visual impression of more spaciousness that a buyer is really looking for. Clean, neat lines with some color to pop, and edit those bookshelves and your desktop, and you're going to be good to go. And you're going to have a home office that'll be a value-added room for your home rather than a detraction. So I hope this is helpful, and when we get together next time, we're going to talk about one of the most important rooms of a house, and that is the kitchen. So I'll see you then.